See you.
You have Sally.
Here, I'll put some on this side and.
So.
Thanks. No, nope.
Morning.
Can we leave this over here? You guys just have participation.
Go from there.
You're trying to get our.
No, I'm trying to see, so we're using a mic, so
Oh.
hopefully we'll get a better sound
Am
quality.
I on there? I see
you're
Deborah,
like-
that means I'm on there.
You're
Well,
like
it's got the whole
off in the
internet.
corner, you can't really see it, you know, because the other thing is, if you just,
Hi, Sensei.
I'm thrilled.
I think, so going forward, we're gonna have that little mic right on top of the table.
I didn't wear a tie.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Oh, yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you, yeah. 33. Good morning, how are you? Yeah, right.
You're catching up to me, Bill. Catching up. Help yourselves to food and,
All good.
Amy brought you Dunkin' Donuts.
Morning all, how are you?
How are you?
Mr. Cleo brought food and a Dunkin' Donuts. Must have been in your honor.
Amy, this is 2 times in a row with your hair down, I don't know yet.
Yeah, I know, what are they at?
She's gotta get her picture.
I haven't seen it down in say 5
You
years.
really notice people's hair.
What's that?
You really notice
It
people's
is.
hair.
It's been a while I don't have it, so.
Cause he think Kevin's like, oh, your hair stuff too. And I'm like, I was your hair. I need to get it.
I'll say it's in your honor.
I'm nothing if not observant. Go ahead, man. You're always looking
Well, I'm always hot, like,
Oh, yesterday.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Bill.
Alright, so, do we have enough to get started? We're gonna stay here. Eight.
I love that.
Yes, come help yourself.
Just so people wanna share.
Guys, we have an agenda. I don't know if you could share.
You guys wanna share some of the agendas? Share. Take a look.
You don't know.
You know what, I should probably get on the ear.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for being here at 7 o'clock in the morning. We made it. Yay! So if we can go ahead and stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have lots of snacks up here too, so if anybody needs some early morning nourishment, seems like we really have a good spread this morning. If we can go ahead and take a look at the agenda and get that approved for the morning, are there any changes or amendments to the agenda this morning? If there are none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the
Is
agenda.
there a second? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Alright.
Aye. Any nays? Oh, yes, sorry, we do need to do a roll call. So I'll go ahead and approve the agenda, if that's okay. And so, any nays? No? Then the agenda is approved, and I do need to do a roll call. Excuse me. Early morning is out of my brain. So if we go around the table and say our names nice and loudly and say what group we're representing. And Naomi, do you mind starting with you?
Naomi Mijan, parent rep and secretary.
Sase Mamboyani, IPK Karate, community.
Jennifer Albert, teacher representative.
Debbie Dean, para representative.
Amy Ellison, parent representative, LSC chair.
Amy Becker, teacher representative.
Joel Colorado, parent representative.
Bill Harmon, parent representative.
Prince Toledo, principal.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And now if we could go to approving last meeting's minutes. Naomi sent those out earlier. I hope you've all had a chance to look at those. Were there any changes or amendments to the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, then the minutes are approved. I went ahead and moved up public participation so that we could accommodate anyone who wanted to speak this morning. I do have there's a clipboard that has a sign-in for anyone who wants to participate. Is there anyone who would like to say anything this morning? That can change later if so needed, but if there's nobody. I actually want to publicly participate this morning very briefly and wish Bill Herman
Oh, hey.
a happy birthday.
Oh, wow. Oh, and a candle.
And a candle and everything,
I
although
see that in fire.
I don't know if this is even gonna light, Bill, so.
Yeah, don't even. Thank you.
Great, well, just in case, happy birthday,
Happy birthday.
anybody that's here on their birthday deserves a little bit of kudos, so.
I approve birthday.
Okay, so then we can move on to the LSC committee reports and discussion. So the first report listed is the Professional Personnel Leadership Committee, PPLC. Jen?
Hi.
Sure.
Well, I just shared it with you, better late than never, we did. So we met yesterday, and I think one of our primary focus was talking about MTSS and really meeting the needs of especially our primary grades where we're finding the biggest need. That's where, it all starts. And we think that the whole school will improve, obviously, as they get older. And, we especially focus on the younger kids. So we're really looking at that. And we thought maybe instead of having a PPLC meeting next month, we're gonna have a couple committee meetings, and this will be one of them, and meet and really focus on MTSS and maybe something else. Next time, we talked about other things.
Yeah,
but
and
that's
we continued our discussion on the restorative justice and detention policy. Currently, students are creating a homework survey and are analyzing the data. And then the goal is to present to the LC again. 50% of the menu that they're creating is completely done. And hopefully by April 10th, they'll be able to present.
And I know the teachers also had the survey, their homework survey that was sent out. And so we're going to be looking at the results for that as well as we do our parent survey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have the dates for those committee meetings?
Oh, it'll be in the day before, the 9th, yeah.
So the committee meetings will both take place during the usual
Yes.
PPLC meeting. Okay, great. The CIWP, there actually is a little bit of news about the CIWP, right, Mr. Toledo?
Right, so we have Michelle Wolf and Mr. Victor are going to be presenting the CIWP overview and talking about some of the budget expenditures for this year and how how those are all tied together. That's part of I think it's part of their leadership development. They're also in an internship as they're working towards a principal certificate. So I'd say, why don't you guys do this? I think it'll be a good experience. And that'll happen on Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you guys want to join us, you're more than welcome. We have about 40 kids that normally come in, so we're expecting parents to stick around for that as well. So we should have a pretty good turnout.
Okay, great. So we are required every year to present updates and sort of a presentation on the CIWP and the budget, and so this fulfills that requirement in this presentation that Sean and Mr. are going to be doing on Saturday. So thank you. The Principal Evaluation Committee.
Yes, we sent out a temporary, or not a temporary, we sent out a draft of the principal survey to everyone on the board, and we had a chance to look at it. I don't know if we're ready to go out this Friday.
We could be, but I would like to talk to you a little
Yeah,
bit
so-
after the meeting.
So the goal is, if not this Saturday or Friday, principal support, it would be next Friday.
Right.
So I really shoot towards next Friday, probably.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds great. Do we have a meeting for the next one? For the next one? Let me see. Yeah, no, okay.
I don't want to get one set this week.
Bilingual Advisory Committee.
So we did not have a meeting last month, but we did have some clarification on how to spend funds. Remember I talked about that? And we can spend funds in any way that the bilingual community wants to spend the funds, but CPS is like, our bilingual committee said we don't want to spend it on food, we don't want to spend it on stuff like that, or we'd rather spend it on student needs. I called downtown and they said, and in essence, they basically told us spend it on. So, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
There's a lot of money in there though, there's like $500, so looks like we're gonna have some pretty decked out, bilingual advisory committee meetings. But no, they had made that decision, and when I called them downtown, they were like, no, that money's for the parents and for their food. I'm like, okay, if that's what you guys want, I'll bring it up to the committee and see what they say, but like I said, they're probably gonna say, we don't want to spend money on this, and I don't have to go back.
So they have to spend money on them?
They suggested strongly that we do that.
Would it work at all if they're doing projects and stuff? Could we spend money on
Yeah,
things?
or
like
something
they
else.
make things, so that would be.
It doesn't make any sense to me to spend money on stuff, but.
I mean, they may have little things that they.
Or if they wanted to do an event for
That would be
the
better.
school and then offer food as an inducement, which is always a great inducement.
That would
So,
be better. So,
That'd be nice.
but I'm bringing it up to them, and hopefully we'll get something, squared away. They were talking about an international night, I don't know where we are in terms of how that's going to happen.
yeah.
But that sounds like a good.
Or, even starting to plan on for future, so like even next year if that's happening. But that's a strange recommendation. Okay. The Wellness Committee, we had our most recent town hall last Thursday. We had the social media and internet town hall, and we had really great turnout. I have been so happy with the turnout for these town halls. We started off, the very first town hall we ever had was last March, and we had 10 people. And so it just keeps growing and growing. So we had about 40 people at this last town hall. And so we're getting our numbers up there. These things take time to establish, and I think as people talk about them and realize the kind of information that we are sharing, that it's going to even improve with attendance. And I know the PTA is going to do sort of a part 2 to what we did on Thursday, and that's going to be on April 26th, but I will let the PTA talk a little bit about that in just a minute. And they will have food, so that will be great. We are working on our homework survey for parents. There's been one sent out to teachers, and the students are working on theirs. And so hopefully we will have that out and the results possibly by the next LSC meeting. And then our next meeting for the Wellness Committee is the first Monday, which is April 1st. LSC Communication Committee.
No updates at this time, we should probably look at it again and see what the next steps are. Maybe something comes out of the survey.
Okay.
I was gonna ask a question for you guys that are getting the letters. You know, using that format of having the parents in one and then the Friday, everything. I mean, it's less, you know, instead of that multi-page.
It's easier to read, I feel like, but we might also want to be asking other parents and getting some feedback about that. So that might be something to talk about in the next meeting. So for those of you who are not aware, Mr. Toledo has traditionally had a really thorough Friday letter, which can be hard to read, and especially as people are accessing things more and more on their mobile phones, the scrolling can kind of stop people from getting to the very bottom of the information. It gets to be a too long to read situation. And so, we're trying to divide it up so that parent groups like the PTA and Friends of Thorpe will have sort of a separate, email that goes out on Mondays, and then his letter will still go out on Fridays. But that way, even though it's multiple emails, at least they might be easier to read and look at. So, as you guys, are interacting with that, you can see if that's truly something that is more helpful. That would be great to hear about.
The open rate's about the same.
Is it? Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so, unless there's anything else for the LSC committees, oh, whoops, I'm so sorry. We also have, did I not put it on here, the
You did.
diverse learners?
Yeah.
Oh, no, LSC committee on diverse learners, I skipped right over it, I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
Elena, would you like to report on the brand new LSC committee on diverse learners?
Well, we've gotten a great feedback from parents, and we're gathering a really big community at this point, so that's really exciting. We have an upcoming meeting that I wanted to express to you guys. So there's definitely the monthly meeting that happens, which is gonna be March 25th, that's the next one. But we have set up a speaker to come in, Mary Fahey. And she's gonna come and talk to the parents. I actually booked Austin Irving Library, just in case, because we thought it would be better to have like the tables, and then they have a screen there for projection. We're not positive, but I think we were talking about doing, where we would have supplies for them to create packets to help, utilize 504s and IEPs. But that's gonna be her main topic, is coming in and expressing to parents what these,
Designation.
programs are. And so, she'll be there talking about each individual one. And for parents who already have them, we hope to try to create these organized packets and teach them how to best utilize it for their kids.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I
I didn't say it.
Oh,
It's gonna be May 4th. And, we think it's, and it's gonna be, I think it's 11 to 3.
So, yeah, we'll really try to make sure we get some good publicity out about that.
We'll start working on that. It's May, but I wanted to let you guys know, because I wasn't sure with the laws, if like you have to vote on it, because it's not on school grounds, but because it's technically a committee, we're not doing any money, there's no, this is all a benefit that we're offering to families.
It doesn't really have to be a larger LSC vote, since it doesn't involve any kind of budgetary issues.
Okay.
So, but that sounds great. Thanks for coming and telling us about that. Is there anything else?
That is it.
Great. Was the survey that you guys were sending out?
I'm sorry, we are still working on the survey.
Okay.
So we decided to leave it open. I think with all the events going on right now, it's just been a little chaotic with getting the word out. So we're gonna press it forward a couple more weeks and then go ahead and close it. We have a meeting set up between us and Toledo. And we'll kind of designate when we really feel like that should be shut down, and then we can organize that survey and present.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now that we have covered those, we can move on to the school committee, and organization reports and discussion. Is there anybody from Friends of Thorpe? I know we do have to do a vote this morning for, they want to do a fundraiser at Ultimate Ninja on Friday, April 5th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. So we need to vote to approve that. You would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to, vote to approve the fundraiser for.
Second. All in favor of approving the fundraiser?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, so the fundraiser is approved, and I will let Friends of Thorpe know that.
Couple of things on Friends of Thorpe, they are purchasing we use with our students in our upper grade cluster program. Part of the reason why we're doing this is we're trying to do so a lot of times the kids in that program are always, they're very aware of things that they cannot do, right? I want them to do something nobody else can do, right? So I want them to start thinking about how we do 3D design and stuff like that. It's going to be a big project, it's going to take a lot of time. teachers committed to and learning how to work through that, and it'll benefit the entire school, because eventually they'll be able to help other students learn how to do, how to use this program, so.
Sounds great. I do know too that Princess Orb is having its annual fundraiser on the Black and White Gala on March 22nd. And I believe the tickets are available for that right now.
Tickets are available, and they,
The 14th is the last day to buy the,
Early bird.
yes.
The early bird.
So tomorrow is the last day to do the early bird.
Okay.
And I'm gonna try to flash that on your parents' thing today.
and I'll send it out on
Great.
a note tonight.
And then up next is PTA.
So just a quick, so the book fair is this week, and we have family fair night on Friday, and upstairs we'll be having Zumba night as well, so we're hoping to get some good crowds on both floors. So, that is where we are, and then Digital Families Night, like we said, so it's, April 26th, and it will be in the auditorium, and it is sponsored by Facebook. So we got a grant, it's $1,000. We're gonna be using some of that money on food and, you know, we'll see what else, we haven't really talked about the budget, but, we will be auctioning out or raffling off a Chromebook. So we're trying to get people in the door, we need at least 50 people there, in order to fulfill the grant requirements. So more to come on that. Bathroom improvement discussion, so this is just something that's been going on, just conversation wise, just about if we need to look at the, you know, Elena, the soap pumps and things like that, or installing an exhaust fan, beautification, just kind of overall, like, making it a little more.
Treating it well, so it will be treated well.
That's right. Yes.
So we've had some issues with the first floor bathroom. First floor bathroom, we have little push button things in the first floor bathroom. And the little guys can't push it in, right? So one of the things, I got a quote for automatic timers that would flush them automatically. We have to be replacing everything. And the quote I got was $8,000. It was crazy. So one of the things that I asked the secondary teachers to do is to have a rotation of kids just to check the bathrooms, because that will solve the problem in terms of just flushing the bathrooms. Because that's been the biggest issue that I have with that. Only because, again, I don't think it's, I may change my mind on this, but I don't think that it's a necessary expense to spend $8,000 when we can just say, hey, here's a job that once an hour somebody has in every single class. You know, one person goes in just for 1 minute, moves, flushes all the toilets, comes right back out. It's a low-cost solution.
No, I think that's great, I just can see.
Are they gonna put that job on the wall?
Yeah, like, you have your.
Toilet flusher is the
That's
job.
toilet flusher, that's right. They will call somebody else.
And then one day where they're like 80 years old talking to their grandparents.
That's
you
your
would
mother.
say,
Back in the day, I was
So they're sensor faucets or
They're-
they're manual?
So well, we were looking at both. Because we'd have to replace everything. Right? And I think we have to replace all the stuff that's there right now. So we looked at the sensor and the push buttons that are a lot easier, but it's expensive. And I'm like, this is a simple problem that we could just address. In addition to that, our custodians do know that they're supposed to go in there every hour and, hey, take a look at this. But sometimes they get there, sometimes they get lunch, sometimes they do other things. But it's a simple problem that I think is a simple solution. That kids are excited about doing jobs. I'm not kidding. You know that it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm responsible for cleaning up the classroom, for distributing pencils, for and other things I do is check the bathrooms. And I don't know. But what do you?
Can I say something really quick? Because I am kind of a representative of the diverse learners. let me just say that I think your idea is great, because if you should put in something like sensors, you're having maybe a new situation occur where you have kids who are not necessarily just in clusters, you're out in the regular gen ed and going into those bathrooms, and those kind of things can be scary too. So we may be, creating something with the sensors. So I like staying with what we have and trying to problem solve.
So low tech solution,
Yeah.
low tech, low cost.
Didn't think we learned from clusters.
Well, it's
True.
good for the real slow.
That's it, to the rigor.
Those buttons are a little sticky.
Yeah, if you're actually in there, you'll
They're
see what
hard
I'm
to
talking
press
about.
on that.
First floor, but always.
Just from an OT standpoint, they're hard to press. Yeah.
So we can, talk about that offline as well. Just a few other quick things for the library. We're purchasing $1,000 worth of books for Ms. Resolve through Wallet, which will cover and code everything before it actually gets here, so she won't have to spend time doing that. So that should be within the next few weeks, I would say. Lost and Found, we have a new setup downstairs to help keep things a little more organized. And then working with Ms. Pruitt and Mr. Robles on making sure the teachers know we have a wish list out there, whether it's for scholastic dollars or cash, to let us know what it is you guys need. So that will be going over for the next week or two.
I want to recognize PTA. Thank you so much for that. Oh my gosh, that's been so helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, much better.
Just like everything you guys do is amazing.
Thank you, teachers, for coming. Okay, so thank you very much, PTA, 7th and 8th grade committee.
We are finishing up our shirts for 8th grade. We went through a survey. The C trip is coming up 28th, 29th for the 7th grade. We looked on interested.
Okay. And everything's all taken care of for 8th grade? Everything's taken care of?
We're just fine.
How has that worked out with the 7th and 8th grade committee being essentially one committee?
In terms of the fundraising, great. Like, absolutely great, because they already go in, 8th grade doesn't really have to raise any money because it's already set up for them. So, so that's been very, very good. We are, overall, I want to say it's a very positive thing. I don't see.
Do you think that setup will work again next year?
We're hoping. That's the plan. And the other good thing about that is the 7th grade parents and then the 8th grade graduation committee parents, and it works well.
Great. All right, well then we're at the principal's report then.
Great. So, principal's report. Due to our time, I will, I'll try to go through this very quickly. So guys, I forgot to share this with you until late last night, but it's all here. In terms of our student performance monitoring, as I've been telling you, we've been looking at where we are per quarter, right? And how we're doing. We're now on week 25. We just ended week 25. Looking at the grade distribution, I want to focus on this right here. Those are our students with D's and F's. And the good news is we have fewer students with D's and F's compared to last year at this time. Bad news is that the cycle is still being repeated, if you notice, right? Here's progress reports, here's progress reports, here's report cards, right? So you see progress report card, they go down, progress report card, they go down. I'd like to see this, obviously I don't want to see anybody getting D's or F's, but I'd like to see a little bit more see it a little bit more even. Because what this tells me is they're falling behind over here, they're playing catch up over here, right? And there's multiple reasons why that's happening. I think a lot of it has to do with late work and late assignments, and it's a burden on our teachers, and it also doesn't help us with executive function. So one of the things that we've suggested, and again, every team has something just a little bit different depending on the team, but at the beginning, at the first quarter, yeah, we'll take late work for credit or for 1 letter grade off. By the second quarter, that should probably get a little tighter. By third quarter, late work only if you're sick, that type of thing, because what ends up happening, and these teachers are amazing, and they're always constantly trying to bend over backwards. But what ends up happening is that it becomes very difficult for them towards the end of the quarter, and the parents are like, "Hey, I turned in all this work, and you still haven't graded it." And they're like, "Well, it should have been graded. It should have been turned in 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we're going to get there." But so I want to try to eliminate that. That's one of the things that we really do have to focus on. Again, we're doing better than we were last year. I'm hoping to see that number go down significantly for the next progress report card for progress report for fourth quarter.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Like, is there a way to know how many of those children come from a single family home? Or
We haven't correlated that. That one will be a little tougher because it's not set up like that. So the demographics, we can definitely look at it like IEP, ethnicity, but the way that this is set up, that's not one of the categories that CPS tracks. Is it possible? Maybe, but it's going to take a lot more. That'll take a lot more work, and there's going to be a whole lot of other social issues that come with that if we propose it. I'm not opposed to it, but I'd be more to like, hey, who needs more help? And maybe correlating this with, are they getting after school support? But that's a great question.
Could be divorce or something causing that.
Could be. I mean, but it could also be, again.
It's interesting that the trend is so consistent.
Right. That's more what I'm concerned about.
You mentioned that Saturday school attendance has been going down. I mean, is it that we just aren't more vocal about it?
We just started up again. So
Okay.
that first week we had a few kids because it wasn't publicized enough. So we only had a couple of people signed up.
Would that be a benefit of us more voicing and making a real effort to say, hey, listen, this is what's happening, and let's vocalize that we have Saturday school and be specific to those that we're seeing that need it, or?
So the way that we do our after school program is we do correlate a lot of this with students that are recommended to go into after school.
Okay.
Saturday school traditionally has been getting ready for NWA, getting ready for the selective enrollment test for 7th and 8th. This is the first year where I basically said 5th through 8th, anybody who hasn't done their work, and we just started with this, or it hasn't caught up, we want you to come to Saturday school. So we had a good number last week. I expect that number to go up. And again, those are all efforts to address this issue, but it's the first time that we've ever addressed this issue in Saturday school. We have addressed it with aftercare or after school. We have addressed it also. A lot of the stuff is also a lot of the work is getting done in school, right? So this win period is often used for, hey, let's get our work done here so you don't have to take it home. And other times it becomes part of the homework issue. So one of the things that I do want to say is that homework is a pretty low percentage of grades. Like for across the category, I think that the highest one I think was 15%. So this is not homework. This is primarily, either major grades that they haven't finished, or test grades.
And this is kindergarten through 8th.
This is kindergarten through 8th grade. Correct. Kindergarten doesn't 1st through 8th. Right. And in reality, there's not a lot of kids that are getting F's in first grade or second. So you're really talking about 3rd through 8th. Okay. So, and again, we do have that analysis is there every single 5 weeks. One of the things I have not talked to you guys about is some of the partnerships that we've had with schools this year, and it's something that college and career readiness that is part of what we do. And I wanted to mention just 3. So the first one is UIC, and thanks to Mr. Roberts, we have a partnership with UIC where they're sending us, what is it, the students that are going to do their clinicals, right?
Doing their clinicals this year, they'll do their student teaching next year.
Right. And we have about how many kids?
8.
We have about 8 kids doing that. In terms of the University of Chicago, we are going to be partnering up with them on a leadership seminar towards the, what was it, June?
End of June.
Yeah, so at the end of June. And that's to really develop, again, in-house leadership. Part of what my goal is that we empower our teachers to be autonomous and also to drive our learning forward. So yes, there's a bigger vision, but we all have to sort of like, the only way that that's going to work is if we're all like pulling in the same direction. So empowering teachers with that opportunity, I think, is something that's critical. We'll be doing that primarily with teachers who have expressed an interest in school administration, like they're thinking about, school leadership is something that I'm thinking about. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to become APs or principals. They just like being part of school leadership. And we want to recognize that and give them more tools. This year I've also been working, like I've actually taught some classes at one class, urban education at DePaul. And it's been actually very helpful for me. That's not so much a partnership as just to open my eyes a little bit as to what's coming in terms of student teachers. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is the fact that problem-based learning, the 4 C's, all of these things that are incredibly important in terms of helping kids get jobs afterwards and become meaningful members of society and not have their job replaced by automation, right? Very, very few of those things are being taught. And so it's been like my mission to make sure that these kids get those skills, because in the world of Google, all the answers are immediately available to you. The big change is going to be how do we think and apply our knowledge to situations that will come in the future that we may not be able to even imagine, right? So that's what we're getting them ready for here, and it's interesting to me that a lot of colleges aren't there yet. So it's just one of those things. And again, I haven't mentioned this at all this year, and I wanted to let you guys know that's happening. In addition to that, I want to show you a couple of things. First off, I really want to recognize Mr. Coughlin for the 8th grade history fair. Big shift this year. Everyone in 8th grade did it. Okay, so it was not just a certain group of students, it's everyone. So what happened, what I liked about that is you did have various levels of achievement in terms of those, in terms of the displays, but I'm so excited that everybody got to do it. And I would say, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 kids, everyone had a project. Those meaningful, memorable moments, those are the things that kids are going to remember, the stuff that they produce. The theme of this year's history fair was Triumph and Tragedy in Chicago. And he did a phenomenal job just organizing everything. I want to thank Ms. Dean for getting our judges in here and then preparing our little Thorpe luncheon afterwards, which was very, very nice. It was good it was really great talking to the teachers that came from before. Right? And sort of saying, here's what's happening with Thorpe right now. And that's kind of a neat thing. The other person that I want to recognize is Mr. Victor. I'm going to show you this really quickly.
I also want to say that Ms. Littleton and Ms. Demowski did the papers.
Yes,
history
thank you.
fair. All 3 of them did it together this year. So that's why we were able to have all the grades, and it was great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. So again, it was a cross-curricular effort, and that was wonderful. So in here, I'll just show you, and you guys can see this a little bit later. Mr. Victor took a number of our students to the Illinois Computing Educators Conference, and they actually presented. There were, goodness, at that conference.
All right, good morning. My name is Max Victor. You are in the YouTube presentation, so if that's not what you intended to see, this is what this is gonna be about. We're gonna let the video do the talking, we're gonna let the students do the talking.
All right, so let's let the students do the talking.
So introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what grade you're in. Tell us about it. Here we go. Hello everybody, I'm Sean, I'm in 8th grade, I came from 3rd. So what is Third TV? Third TV is a worldwide YouTube channel, where students get to talk about what they like, actually be themselves.
All right, so what was neat about this was, Thorpe TV is something that we have every single day. We create some sort of newscast created by kids. What's special about what we do is it's also, we incorporate everyone, right? So there are a number of students that.
Good morning, students, staff, parents. Please stand for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance. And this morning, I have two guests with me.
So I'll wait until after that.
Hi, my name is Vedika and I'm thankful for learning, and the second makes it easier and fun. Hi, my name is Khalid. I'm thankful for the great weather because I get to play outside more.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, this morning, it's beautiful outside, but you see that it's raining. We will play it by ear for recess, so if it's dry, they will go out. If it's raining, they will be in. Have a good day.
All right. So, alrighty. So many of the students that were actually presenting were students with special needs, and it was incredibly important for us to show everybody, everyone works on this. It's a whole school project, and everybody's capable of doing these things. It's really again, it's very empowering. And it's one of the highlights. Like here are some of the students. Here's Jack. He does a fantastic job. So if you have a chance, take a look at it. It's pretty neat. Now I'm going to move on. Budget report. In terms of our budgets, it's been updated. I do want to let everybody know that Miss Sanabria has been out. She's on a leave. And she's, so just to let everybody know, so, Ms. Morel, Ms. Lamani, Ms. Dean, they've all been taking up the slack. We expect her back soon, but just so that everybody knows that in terms of the bill collecting process, because normally she's pretty good about calling everybody and saying, hey, that those efforts have been diminished a little bit right now, but also just in terms of getting out everything squared away. They've done a phenomenal job of supporting and filling in, and it's really important that we have multiple people that know everybody else's job, right? And this is always very helpful for that. But we're hoping that to have her back with us soon. So you have the budget lines that are available. It's the same report that we always do, just updated for this month. And in terms of, again, all of our purchase orders, the only difference is, let's see here. So the collections hasn't been updated. That's what I was talking about, but everything else has been. So let's keep going forward. I think that was it. I was trying to make sure that this one was short. I do want to mention a couple of things about IAR. That's the new test that the kids are actually taking right now. It's basically the PART test rebranded with a new title. It's the Illinois Assessment Readiness Test, but it's right now it's the same format. That PART format will be the format that's going to be here for a while. It took a long time to develop. It's tied into Common Core. Common Core is going to be here for a long period of time. It does emphasize critical thinking. It is probably a lot harder than some of the tests that we took when we were in school, just because there's multiple answers, and sometimes they'll ask them questions to disprove something. I mean, it's very different than what we grew up with. So if you guys remember taking the Iowas or the ISATs or IGAP or whatever was going on here, this test is very, very different. I expect that to continue. I don't know where we are with regards to, once the state actually says, this is what we're doing, I think you'll see a shift from CPS, from NWA to whatever the state says. Because right now there is a dichotomy here where we have two tests that test very, very different things. NWA tests for growth and really how far above the norm your children are, right? So teachers are pressured to teach way above level because that's the only way they can show growth. When you're at Thorpe, when some of your kids, well, let's say our traditional programs are one grade ahead or one grade level ahead, or they're scoring one grade level ahead compared to neighborhood schools, and then students that are in the gifted program are scoring 2 grade levels ahead minimum, it becomes very, very difficult. And I think that they will attest to that they are definitely teaching way above what they would normally teach at that grade level. IAR or / Park, what they're basically saying is this is what a fourth grader should be expected to know. Test is very difficult, but it is not above grade level. So we have two opposing philosophies. I actually like both of the tests. I like NWEA. I'm not crazy about NWEA as an evaluative tool because there's so much pressure put on the teachers, and there's also so much pressure put on the kids to really outperform where they are just even academically or even just socially, right? So when you have, some of our fourth graders are testing at a high school level in terms of reading and math. So are some of our third graders, right? So, and it just goes up, and there's that pressure of we have to teach everything. So I know Miss Alper is often doing trigonometry with these guys, right? When they have not had the ability to go through algebra 2 or even just being introduced to algebra, right? So it's very difficult, but that's the only way that they can maintain continually going up. And if we're not continually going up, there's going to be a problem. So that's why I'm saying that there's two different tests right now. This cannot continue like this for much longer, just because we're seeing a lot of stress on our teachers, a lot of stress on our kids. But personally, I like the NWEA test because it did shift the focus from what am I supposed to teach to what can they learn. That's been helpful, right? But putting everything on that test is kind of difficult for the teachers and the students. The PARC test, again, the format's going to be very, very similar, regardless of what it's called, PARC, IAR, and it's going to be IAR next year too. It'll probably be done by a different company, but the formats are basically going to be the same. Right now we need to do both. Like that's one of those things where we sort of need to do both. But I don't know how long that situation is going to last. But it's been going on for at least for the 6 years that I've been here, and I don't see any changes happening to CPS's assessment until the state gets its act together and basically says this is what this is. Even with the whole test right now, because PARC was a federal mandate, that type of thing. A lot of states bucked at it. So did a lot of parents, right? But we have a lot of, but that format was adopted by many states, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere because they have put so much research and so much money and so much efforts behind it, and then correlating it again with Common Core because that's where we were going. I don't think that's going to leave. The reason that I say that is because we do have parents who are saying, well, I'm opting out of the test. And I just want to let everybody sort of know that there are no opt-out procedures. This is one of those things where I've been told by CPS, don't take letters. Don't take emails. Don't do any of these things. The students have to be the ones who say, I'm not taking this test, right? Personally, I find that appalling. Don't think an 8-year-old should be the one who makes that decision, right? But that's sort of where we are. But go back, right? When we were in school, it was very hard for us to say, hey, we're not taking this test, right? So, I'm just letting you know, but that's sort of where we are. So some parents might be wondering, well, why haven't I responded to some of the emails? Why haven't I sent out, what I normally send out? Well, it's because I've been told, don't send out anything, don't do anything. We're in the process. It's not a big deal. The kids are more used to that format. The students who've never taken that test may be at a disadvantage if, again, because we never know, if all of a sudden we say, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. And then the kids who have never taken that test are taking it for the first time. So for me, I think the teachers would agree, the tests are difficult, the tests do make kids think, as they're sitting there. And there's not a lot of instruction other than that test that's going on, right? So what's going on right now is kids are drawing, kids are reading, they're in the class. That's what's happening. They can't be on a Chromebook because they're not taking the test. So I just wanted to give you a little bit more perspective on what was going on. And then if you guys had any questions for me specifically about that, I'll be more than glad to answer.
When do you get the results of the IAR?
We get the results over the summer, which is what I hate, because there's nothing I can do with it. That test will be changing though, so it will be more like NWA, where it will be an automatic, this is their goal. They want to make it adaptive, and they want the results immediate. So adaptive means that it changes with every question, right? So it'll be more like NWA with more Common Core sort of built in. So I don't know what that's eventually going to look like, because an adaptive test means you have to teach to a higher level, unless if the state caps it and says, no, this is a very, very high functioning 5th grader should only have to do this. They don't have to go a little bit further. We don't know what that's going to look like because they haven't done it. There was a huge, I don't know if you guys have looked at the news, there was a huge issue with Pearson, and the state of Illinois didn't want to use Pearson this year. So Pearson sued the state of Illinois and said, no, we have a contract, so we're doing it. So that's why we're doing this iteration of the IAR this year, because it was created by Pearson, it was part of the PART test. So in essence, it's the PART test again. I don't think that's what's going to happen next year, although the format is probably going to be very, very similar. Eventually they'll get this together. They'll work this out. But I just wanted to let everybody know sort of where we are with this. Any other questions about this? Testing initials. You guys don't have to worry about that too much primary yet, but it'll come
This
soon.
test is not currently being used to, it's because it's the old PART test, it doesn't really do anything in terms of like high stakes for the students. The students don't need it for any kind of like admission or for advancing.
So for CPS, absolutely no bearing. For the state, however, it does, right? And one of the things that you guys should also be aware of, right? If you're applying for scholarships, if you're applying for certain things, they will often look at standardized tests. If you give your child the opportunity to have multiple standardized tests, you can use multiple results. You can say, hey, they did really well on NWA, you don't need to look at IAR. Or they did really well at IAR, don't look at my NWA. It sort of helps the kids. Secondly, where it hurts us, last year we had almost half of our kids not take the test. It hurt us in terms of our standing with the state. Like on our state report card, if you look at Thorpe, we're pretty average. That is not where we normally are, but we had so many, since PART started, we've had opt-outs in the hundreds. Most schools do not. So it has hurt our ranking on our school report card. And because we are 100% word of mouth, I'm sure that there has been some decisions made by some parents who said, well, look at where they are on the state report card. Let's look at another school. So that does hurt us, but that's a school problem, not and this is something that I've mentioned before, not a, as an individual parent right problem, I totally get when parents are like, no, I don't want them to take it. Not a big deal. But it does affect us. It does affect us as a school.
What's your reasons for opt-outs, just out of curiosity?
Well, there's multiple. I mean, there's multiple reasons. One of the reasons, like one of the ones that I can sort of identify with is sort of saying, I'm a parent. I can choose. I think it's really, really important. I think that's something that's very valuable. Other reasons are time, right? Like we're taking away time from instruction to take this test. In essence, we're looking at about a week's worth of 1 hour, 1.5 hour, well, 1 hour to 1.5 hour sessions, multiple sessions for this week. Like we try to get it all done in 1 week, so it's not over a longer period of time. But that's the other issue that parents have mentioned. Other, I mean, there's a whole slew of reasons. One of the reasons that I mentioned was NWA is what counts for CPS. So why in the world am I even bothering with this? It's not going to be used for anything. Last year it was last year of the park test. Why are we taking this? But in reality, it wasn't, because now it's exactly the same thing. But again, in a suburban district, it might be a little different. CPS really does not pay too much attention to this test, but we are held accountable in terms of, I do get the phone call, hey, your participation rate was crazy low. What happened? And I'm like, we have good parents that would think through this stuff, and they're not going to just be, that happens. And again, good parents on both sides, right? Because it doesn't. I think that whether they take the test or not take the test, I do think that that's your decision. But as a school, we're supposed to be 95%. That's the minimum threshold. We have never even been close to 95%.
I will say that some of the other reasons that parents choose to opt out have to do with the metrics-based sort of evaluation of school and children, and the fact that when there's so much pressure placed on children to achieve a certain metric, and on schools and on teachers to achieve a certain metric, then that becomes the focus of education. And parents in CPS don't have a lot of options for appealing to the Board of Education. The Board of Education chooses to hold its meetings at times when it's very difficult for parents to attend. You have to sign up very early to be able to speak for 2 minutes. And so this sort of opt-out movement started as a philosophical response in large part to metrics-based evaluation of teachers, schools, and students, as opposed to looking at other kinds of information. And when I mean metrics, I mean specifically data derived from testing.
Sure.
There are lots of other metrics that you can look at too, like high school graduation rates, and some of the other even social emotional skills, which research is starting to show that those social emotional skills have more to do with success later in life than some of the metrics that are used in data collection and testing. So that's another reason that parents might choose to opt out.
So there's a whole slew. I think Raise Your Hand has a lot of stuff out there
Right.
with regards to that. But again, I hope that gives you a clearer picture as to that's both the arguments for and against, and also where we sort of are. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Toledo. Is there any new business that we need to bring up for address?
I'd like to just share that on May 10th, we have Urine Consulting coming in out to our school. I spoke with the 2 people that are in charge yesterday. We did a conference call. We're going to be looking for parents and students to help us. That's a Friday. I have asked them for, they've been giving us $500 to do things, and we thought as a school that we need some flowers and the things outside, maybe more picnic tables, or everything needs sprucing up. So I kind of told them $500 wasn't really enough. So I said, you did give us $800 one year, so they're going to go with a bigger proposal. It can't hurt. So if we get more than $500, fine, but they will commit to $500 so that we can buy, flowers or whatever, and they will pay for it. And they will bring a group of people. They would like to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they would like to spend the day with our students and parents. So they asked if they could stay till 1 or 1:30. So they want to get a lot of things done. It's a very vibrant group. So I will be talking to them after spring break, and at that time, Mr. Toledo will send the, inviting parents to come out so we can see who can commit. And that's May 10th, it's a Friday.
I'm sorry, can you repeat